Friends, I have a dilemma in the sense that, I have to speak in English. I'm going to speak about health Swaraj. I know that if I speak in Malayalam, my language, only few people will understand. If I speak in my broken Hindi, another small group of people will understand. So this is the problem with this country. This is a country of many languages. And English is not our language. And sadly, I have to use a foreign language as a link language to communicate with, hoping to communicate with all the people. I'm sure that, probably many of you, some of you at least, may not be able to understand English to the extent expected in a meeting, in a conference like this. However, this is our limitation, and so you'll have to please bear with me. And I understand that, probably at the end of the session, somebody will be giving a resume in Hindi also, so that people who don't follow English will be able to get an idea about what transpired intellectually in this session. I know this is a very complex question, health Swaraj. And one can speak at length on it. I was actually doing a lot of preparation, hoping that, I will have to present a kind of a scholarly presentation on this topic, but Jacob was telling me that, I have to, because many of the people are activists from the field, and therefore, I'll have to talk at a level in which all people will be able to follow some of the basic ideas. So I'm not going to kind of talk about it on a high theoretical level, although that is possible. I would begin by saying that, a person's idea of health, concept of health, and health care, which includes, of course, disease, treatment, systems, all those things, are part of his, what I call a personal philosophy, a philosophy of life. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone will develop in the course of living an attitude to life which will gradually emerge into, even it can emerge into a philosophy of life. So the way I look at my body, how I understand my body, how I understand the relationship of the body to other human beings, other living beings, to physical nature of which I am a part, all these are basically not just physical questions, they are moral, spiritual questions, philosophical questions. And therefore, the first point I would like to share with you is that a person's concept of health is a part of his philosophy of life, a philosophy which individuals develop as a result of reading, interaction, discussions with other people, experiences, exposures, and all these things. There are two basic concepts in this discussion, in the topic today. One is health and the other is Swaraj. So if somebody asks you what is health, what do you understand by health? The very common, simple answer to this question will be, and it has always been, that disease is a state where you are free from disease. If you don't have any kind of troublesome, difficult disease, complicated disease, maybe minor ailments can be there, but if you are free from disease, then you think that you are healthy. This is a simple kind of understanding of health, which is universal. It's not only confined to ordinary, uneducated, rural people. Even if you talk to educated people, very educated, highly educated people, many of them may be giving this simple answer, universal kind of answer to this question. And but health is not that simple a concept. It's not a simple concept, it's a complex concept. Because if you look at, if you study human history, if you look at the way human civilization developed, you will be able to find that every society had its own approach to health. Every society, traditional societies particularly, developed their own approach to health. So health is not a very simple thing, because it is related to the human body primarily, and it is related to a number of other factors which constitute life in its totality, and therefore a lot of thinking, a lot of experiments have gone into this. And every society developed its own approach to health and developed its own system of health care. In India, you know that we have what you call Ayurveda, and it's not called a system of treatment, it's called a Veda. A Veda is something very, very special for us. And so, it's not simple. There are various models. I don't have time to go into a survey of the anthropological survey of the systems of medicines, which is very interesting and fascinating. But I will only say that there are different models. And I will just give you three major models of health, what you call health models. One is the biomedical model, the popular, well-known biomedical model, which has been kind of imported to this country or transported to this country by modern medicine, by the colonial powers into this country, this biomedical model. And the biomedical model, health is, as I said in the beginning, is freedom from disease, freedom from pain, and freedom from defects. And it looks at health basically from the point of view of biology, physical factors. Biology means physical factors. And ignores some of the fundamental ingredients of health or aspects of health, like the psychological factor, the environmental factor, the social factor. All these factors are not included or incorporated in the well-known, prevalent biomedical model. The modern medicine, the modern medical system, which has almost invaded, this is a phrase used by Ivan Illich. Modern medical system has invaded, therapeutics and pharmaceutics have invaded modern man, and this is based on this biomedical model. And this is, I think it is necessary particularly for people who are interested in alternative systems of medicine. What we call alternative systems of medicine, because the main alternative is what is alternative to the mainstream. And we all know that, the modern medicine, what you call the allopathic system, is the mainstream in this world today. It has completely conquered the whole healthcare arena of the world, and therefore it has become the mainstream. So traditional healing, Ayurveda, even Ayurveda, which is thousands of years older than modern medicine. Modern medicine developed as it is today only from the 19th century. You can trace its history to 19th century. And if you want the philosophy and also the scientific philosophy behind it, you can trace it specifically to Newton and René Descartes. So it's not very old. But our system, for example, the Ayurvedic system, is so old, ancient, still it's not the mainstream. We consider it as an alternative to a system which was developed in the 19th century. You see the paradox of this. If you go to any traditional society, Tibetans, for example, have a Tibetan system of medicine, whose history they are not very clear about. They don't have a clear history, because, all traditional societies did not give so much importance to historiography, writing down history, documenting things, because they had more serious things to think about. You go to, I've lived with the Native Americans, whom we call the Red Indians in the United States, particularly the northern states of the United States, South Dakota, North Dakota, etc. I have stayed with them in their reservations, and the most respected person in the community is a person called the medicine man. They use a native word which can be translated into English as the medicine man. So they have a traditional system of medicine. They have a traditional form of what we call sweat. They use the term sweat. Now you have the spa and all that. In tourism, in health tourism, you have the spa and such other things. But the prototype you will be able to find with the Native American. So, but this is an alternative. We say that this is an alternative. Something that developed from the 19th century is the mainstream. But that was how it was to be, because it was sponsored by, supported by, spread by, and imposed by the colonial powers, and therefore, naturally and without much difficulty, it became the mainstream. So it is, I don't think I have time to go into the philosophical basis of this, but the main thing is that it began to look upon the body on the basis of the model developed by Newton and René Descartes. They came to look upon the human body as a machine. They have the concept of the image of the giant machine. The universe is a giant machine, and it works according to certain fixed physical laws. And if you understand the physical laws, you will be able to control, to manipulate the physical world. Similarly, they considered the human body to be a machine. And there are laws which operate within the body, and they separated the body and the mind. Just like Descartes said that the mind and the matter and spirit are different, the mind and the body are different. And so the division, what is well known as the Cartesian division of the matter and spirit, the human mind and human body is separated. And it was imposed by what is known as the scientific reductionism. If you want to understand how do you understand a machine? You understand a machine by kind of disassembling it, taking it out into its parts. You separate them into its parts, understand them, put them back, reassemble, and then it becomes the machine. So this approach is what is known as reductionism, scientific reductionism. And this approach was translated into every sphere of human knowledge, particularly to medicine and human body, understanding of the human body. So when our students study medicine in medical colleges, they have what you call dissection of the human body, dead body, and they look up at it as a mechanic looks at a machine. There's no difference. So this is what is called the mechanistic reductionist understanding of the human body. And this led to the development of a system of what is known as modern medicine, where gradually the need for specialization and super specialization occurred. So every part has a specialist. Just like in complex mechanisms, every part has a specialist. So this is the basis of modern biomedical system, biomedical healthcare. But you see, one of the things that we have to understand about the health model is that the self-understanding and critique of health models emerge from the medical fraternity itself. Don't think that the medical fraternity is a condemned lot. There are critical insiders in the medical fraternity, and they always see the limits and limitations of the model developed by them, by what you call the experts, and then begin to critique the system and then present alternative systems to the main model. So when the biomedical model, the limitations of the biomedical model became very obvious, very clear, they started thinking about an alternative model. And I'm sure that many of you must have heard about the well-known Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic is probably the place in the clinic in the world where the most serious and intense medical researches are going on. In Rochester, in the state of Minnesota, in the United States. And in Mayo Clinic, the doctors developed an alternative model or an improved model on the biomedical model, which was known as the biopsychosocial model. And the biopsychosocial model argued that it is necessary to take into account the psychological aspects and the social aspects of health. And it's not proper that you just consider the biology of the human person alone as the most important and the deciding and defining feature of health. So they developed an alternative model. And then afterwards came what is known as the holistic model of medicine, where all aspects of human life has to be taken into consideration, and emphasis should be placed not only on the physical aspect of health, but also on the mental, moral, mental also means moral, and spiritual aspects of health. So a holistic model was also developed. And as a result, if you look at we always look to America because of the level of research in that country. They have an association called American Holistic Health Association. And interestingly, a lady, Susanna, who is the present president of the Holistic Health Association of America, is not a medical doctor. She is only an MBA. But it's she who is leading this holistic health organization, which is a very telling, which gives you a telling message about, the scope of health, which is not limited to the medical fraternity alone, and they cannot hold a monopoly over health. Then we come to the most well-known definition of health. World Health Organization finally was challenged to offer a comprehensive definition of health. And you know that this is the most widely accepted definition of health. Whoever wants to define health will immediately go to the WHO definition. Health is a state of complete physical, social, and mental and social well-being. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This is the definition. So health is not the absence of infirmity, means defect. It is not the absence of infirmity, it's not the absence of disease, but it is a state of complete well-being. Well-being is the word that is used, which is just more than health. Well-being is more comprehensive and more encompassing. So this definition has been there. And then you come to the second concept of, part of this topic is Swaraj. We are going to talk about health, Swaraj. So health is not just absence of disease, freedom from disease. It is complete well-being of the individual. Physical well-being, mental well-being, spiritual well-being. The World Health Organization definition does not say anything about spiritual well-being, because that would become controversial, and therefore they very deliberately avoided using the term spiritual. So it's mental, spiritual, and social well-being of the individual. So it's a comprehensive, all-encompassing concept. And then coming to the Swaraj, the word Swaraj, the word Swaraj literally means one's own rule by oneself is actually what the word literally means. You know that the word became popular in India, in Indian politics, because the word was transplanted from the Vedas into politics. Originally it's a Vedic word, it was first used in the Vedas. It was transplanted into the world of the domain of politics, and that is how it became popular. We know that during the freedom movement, the early days of the freedom movement, when Gokhale and Tilak were the leading stalwarts of the freedom movement, it was Tilak who really created a sensation in the country by declaring that Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. And young people all over this country started repeating this statement by Tilak. Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. I am not going to allow anybody to take away Swaraj from me. I will capture it back, get it back for me. So that was a very, very inspiring statement made by Tilak, and the word came into Indian political lexicography as a result of this. Then Gandhi, Gandhi was also fascinated by the word. Everyone was. There was talk about Swaraj, writing about Swaraj all over India and wherever Indians were, not only in India, but even outside. So when Gandhi, when he was in South Africa, he went to, in 1908, he went to England to lobby for the South African cause. I'm not going to give you a detailed account of the history of what Gandhi did, but he talked to the people young people in London. There were students, others in London, who were all very active in the freedom movement. They wanted to free the country, and there was some violence in England also. A person called Madan Lal Dhingra killed an Englishman. And then Gandhi asked these people, what do you understand by Swaraj? And they had no clear idea about what Swaraj was. And so when he was returning, Gandhi wrote a monograph, a small book in 1909, published in 1909, called The Hind Swaraj, or Indian Home Rule, in which he defined Swaraj. I'm not going to give you a detailed account of how Gandhi explained the concept of Swaraj, but I would also only say that Gandhi saw it at three levels. He saw or attributed three significance, three meaning, deep meaning to the concept of Swaraj. One is self-rule, self-control. Self-control. Swaraj at the first level means self-control. It's very easy to say this, self-control. What is self-control? It is an organic relationship with the concept of health. I will come to that subsequently. What does self-control mean? Self-control for Gandhi and in the Indian tradition, self-control means having primarily control over the senses of your body. See, we have a physical body, we exist in this physical body, and the physical body is a reality, and people have even developed philosophies on the basis of this, like, the existentialism of Sartre, who says that existence precedes essence. Existence comes first, essence comes later. So body is important. But what is this body? This body has senses. It is made out of elements. Gandhi, in his second important monograph, to which I would like to refer to, Key to Health, Gandhi has a very seminal work on health called Key to Health. And in Key to Health, Gandhi is explaining this idea of the concept of Panjabhoot. There is the Panjabhoot, the five elements. And in the human body, you have the five senses. And so there is a close relation between physical nature and the physical body. In the Indian tradition, you say, Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. That is, what is there in the cosmos, there is in the body. And what is there in the body, there is in the cosmos. Microcosm and macrocosm. If you want to use English terms or Greek terms, you can use these terms. As is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm. And later researches into human physiology has revealed that, the human body contains every element that you will be able to see in physical nature. Every element. And therefore, there is a deep, organic correspondence between physical nature and the physical body of the human person. And therefore, the question of, the senses arise. And the question is how to control the senses. If you want to control yourself, you have to control your senses, because the senses act on their corresponding elements in nature. It is an attraction, it is a fascination. The sense in me, a particular element in me, has a natural fascination for attraction towards the corresponding element in nature. And this is one of the basic concepts of traditional healing. And therefore, unless you are able to control your senses, you will not be able to achieve what we call self-control. Because, the senses can take you to unnecessary and dangerous and risky terrains. In the Bhagavad Gita it is said that a person who has no control over his senses, the life of a person who has no control over his senses is like a rudderless ship in a stormy ocean. It's like a rudderless ship. Vayurnavam ivampasi, it says in the sloka. In the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita it says, one who has no control over the senses, his life will be like a rudderless, anchorless ship in a stormy, boisterous ocean. So, how to achieve? Gandhi says that unless you have control over your body, you will not be able to achieve anything, you will not be able to do anything substantially, anything creatively, anything positively. That was his attitude. So self-control is the first dimension of Swaraj. And self-control means the ability to control the senses. The ability to, control is not a good word. It has a stink, and therefore I will probably prefer to use the word regulate. It will regulate the working of the senses. The senses have to work. The senses has to function. It has to feed on things. The eyes, the function of the eyes will be complete only when the eyes view beauty and enjoy beauty. Your sense of hearing will be complete only when it enjoys music. Not only the music of a vocalist, but the music of nature, music of the elements, music of the stars. Unless you do that, your sense of hearing will be only partial. It will not be kind of fulfilling its founding function, the basic function. So the senses have to do their work. Without the senses operating on physical nature, existence is impossible. But the question is to what extent and how? To what extent and how? And therefore, regulation becomes important. And how is regulation possible? Regulation is possible only if, your mind also comes into play. Unless your mind is coupled into, is connected to, you cannot have control over the senses. You need the mind to help you in controlling the senses. But there is a problem, because sometimes the mind is taken away by the senses. And therefore, Gandhi says, taking his lesson from the Gita, he says that the ultimately dependable source of strength is your spirit. Spirit, anchor your attempt in spirit, and call the spirit, the strength of the spirit, soul force to aid. Then you will be able to control your mind and you will be able to control your senses. So Swaraj for Gandhi is controlling one's senses, self-control, controlling the mind with the help of the power which is latent in you, the power of the spirit, the power of the soul. This is the first meaning of Swaraj. The second meaning is very political, self-rule. You have to rule over yourself. You don't allow anyone else to rule, which is also important from the point of view of health Swaraj. And the third meaning of Swaraj is self-realization. Self-realization, which is the ultimate goal of existence, the ultimate goal of life. I don't have time to explain. Then the question is, how is it related to health? Gandhi saw that modern medicine, Gandhi in his Hind Swaraj, offers a critique of modern civilization. And Gandhi saw that there are certain pillars which really support modern Western civilization or modern civilization for that matter. One, for example, is the legal system and the courts. Advocate John Joseph is here, who is a practicing lawyer. The legal system. And second was hospitals and modern medicine. And Gandhi offered a very severe critique of modern medicine in the Hind Swaraj. And he said that hospitals are places which propagate sin, S-I-N, sin. And he called, I don't have time to go into the details because there are other speakers also to speak. And he also called modern medicine black magic. Black magic, mandravada. Black art, necromancy. Black magic, he called it the essence of black magic. Not only black magic, but the essence of black magic. Why did he say this? He said this because, what does modern medicine do according to Gandhi? Modern medicine, doesn't go down to the causes of illness. See, if you have a disease, if you are ill, there's a difference between illness and disease. It was Ivan Illich who said that, doctors reduce illness to diseases. Illness is not disease. Anyway, that's another point. They don't really try to find out why a person is sick, why a person has a disease. Gandhi says that just like nature, there are natural laws, physical laws of nature, there are laws of the human body also. The human body is a complex of systems, It's a big complex system which has many subsystems, like a digestive system, a respiratory system, a muscular system, all these things. There are many subsystems within the system called the human physical body, the physical body of the human being. And each system has its autonomy. It's very clear. The respiratory system has its autonomy. The digestive system has its autonomy. The nervous system has its autonomy. But these autonomies are not absolute. It is an integral, it is part of an integral autonomy of the total system of the human person. And therefore, there is a system approach to health, which is called the systems approach to health, and this was developed by a well-known scientist, Furjot Capra. And so, the body has certain laws, physical laws on which it works. Digestion has its laws, respiration has its laws, the muscular system has its laws, and if we are not able to understand these laws, you will not be able to understand the functioning of this body. We all have to admit that we are most ignorant. You take any human being, most human beings are most ignorant about their own body. What is my understanding of my body? Probably that is the most meager. My understanding of my body is the most meager of my understandings. I may know about philosophers, I may know about literature, I can quote from the Bhagavad Gita, from Kalidasa, I may speak about a dozen philosophers, social scientists, I can talk, chapter and verse from Gandhi, but when it comes to understanding of this human body, which is the vehicle on which the person of me moves, my understanding is pathetically poor, meager. And therefore, I don't know about my body. So when something happens to my body, out of my ignorance, out of ignorance, fear is generated. Ignorance creates fear. So out of my ignorance, I become afraid. So I run to the person who has knowledge. And in modern times, I know I'm taking jumps when I talk. I'm sorry, because of time constraint, I have to do this. Knowledge is power. There was a great scientist, philosopher called Sir Francis Bacon. And Francis Bacon said that knowledge is power. And if you want an area where this 16th century idea of Sir Francis Bacon, that knowledge is power, is literally observed, forcefully observed, it is in the domain of modern medicine, allopathic system. The doctor, because he has knowledge, he wields power. He decides, you throw yourself up to the doctor. You compromise your dignity. That was what Ivan Illich was saying in the Medical Nemesis, the well-known book called Medical Nemesis, which I think all people who are interested in health must read as a Bible. Medical Nemesis by Ivan Illich. And then he says that, you compromise your human dignity and autonomy by surrendering yourself to the doctor. Because you don't know, you have no knowledge of your body, you don't know what is happening in your body. And here is a person who has knowledge, and therefore you go and surrender before him, and then he wields power, he decides. He puts you into a series of tests and all that. And people have serious doubt about whether, the method of measurement, the method of test, what we call test, is really scientific. Is human body, the functioning of the human body, the metabolism in the human body, really amenable faultlessly to the kind of test to which you are subjected, is questioned by medical people themselves. This is not my idea, because I have gained this information or knowledge by reading. I invite your attention to a very controversial book which was published in 1978, yes, 1978, by Robert Mendelssohn, called, The Confessions of a Medical Heretic. The Confessions of a Medical Heretic. Mendelssohn was a medical doctor, he was a pediatrician. He was the head of a big medical college. He became the dean of medicine of a university in the United States. The book is well known, it was a bestseller in the world at one time. And after 36 years of medical practice, Mendelssohn came out disillusioned. And he wrote this book, and he said that, this is the less medicine, more health. And he did not say, like Bernard Shaw, that the medical profession is a murderous absurdity. That is the well-known statement made by Bernard Shaw, that modern medical profession is a murderous absurdity. He did not say that, but he said that medical profession is to be challenged from within. And you must read that book, He was against mass immunization. He was a pediatrician. He was the first pediatrician to stand up and speak against mass immunization and say that mass immunization is dangerous to the health of children. So in this book, he says this, that, the mechanism inside the human body are so complex that they are not amenable to the kind of tests which they offer, and on the findings of which they are deciding treatment. The controversy which has arisen recently on cholesterol. There is a paper which I read recently which says that there is nothing called low-density cholesterol and high-density cholesterol. There is nothing called bad cholesterol and good cholesterol. Cholesterol is cholesterol. That's what they say. It is produced by the liver. And if the production of cholesterol is less, it means that there is something wrong with your body. This is not my finding or the paper I wrote. This is a paper by a well-known medical doctor from the United States, which is available online. So the point is, the approach of modern medicine, the reductionist approach of modern medicine, is established because of our ignorance of our body. And Gandhi says that the only way to be healthy is to understand the laws of nature. Try to understand the laws of nature and the laws of the physical laws of the human, the functioning of the human body, and see the correspondence between them. And that is what will lead you to health. That's what Gandhi says. And that was why he came to nature cure. Gandhi has used natural therapeutic. He used the two terms, natural therapeutic and nature cure. And Gandhi was not very happy about the term nature cure, nor was he happy about the term natural therapeutic, because both had their limitations. Because health, the naturopathy for Gandhi was not only about curing a disorder, curing a malady. In Gandhi's concept of health, there are three things necessary in a sound healthcare system, which he thought the best was naturopathy. But he did not say that you should follow only naturopathy. For him, the best was naturopathy, and naturopathy has an emphasis on the preventive. It has a preventive dimension to it. Any healthcare system to be sound, to be healthy, to be acceptable to all people, and to be universally recommendable, must have all these three dimensions. One is the preventive dimension, the other is the curative dimension. If there is a disorder, whatever be the reason, it should be cured, it should be corrected. So there should be a curative dimension, and the third is a prescriptive dimension to it. A prescriptive dimension is to tell you how to live. What is the healthy way of living? What is the sound way of living? So that is the normative aspect of medical care, helping people to understand. Gandhi said that the problem with modern medicine is that it doesn't go down to the roots of the problem. It doesn't delve deep into the causes of the problem. It only sees the symptoms and tries to suppress the symptom or remove the symptom somehow through some method, whatever be, chemical intervention, physical intervention, surgical intervention. It tries to remove the cause. I mean, the symptom, not the cause. The cause will be there. You know about stenting? Applying stent and doing bypass. There is a block. If there is a block, if it is true that there is a block, due to sedimentation and narrowing down of your artery, whatever be it, there must be a cause for it. And if you do a bypass, there is a heavy traffic, and therefore for a time being you do a bypass, but that is not going to reduce the traffic. Similarly, the cause remains. The cause is not addressed. And that was one complaint against of Gandhi against modern medicine. The second was that, according to Gandhi, the reason why a body becomes sick, it contracts a disease, is because, you practice indulgence. Gandhi, this is a favorite word of Gandhi, indulgence. Indulgence is, doing something too much, more than necessary, is what is called indulgence. There is a tasty food, and you are indulgent about your food, means you eat more than enough. You eat too much. So, I said in the beginning, citing from Gandhi, that the senses have their fascination for their physical objects. And then, without your senses enjoying corresponding physical objects, you cannot exist. But if it goes beyond a limit, it becomes not only counterproductive, but it becomes self-defeating. It becomes self-defeating. This is what is indulgence is. So if a person is sick, if he has indigestion, it is because he has eaten wrong food or he has eaten too much of good food. Both can cause indigestion. So indulgence. Gandhi says that the modern medical practitioner will never tell a sick person that this is the result of indulgence. He will say that if you want to eat a particular kind of food, you have a fascination for a particular kind of food, okay, you do that. But you also take some kind of chemical substance, drugs, medicine, so that you can eat more, you can become sick, but your symptom will be suppressed. You don't feel the problem. So it is a kind of camouflaging the real thing, hiding the real thing, and misleading. So Gandhi says that if you are really a man of knowledge, you shall not mislead. And this is what people of modern medicine are doing. And so he said that naturopathy is advisable. Gandhi practiced naturopathy. Of course, he learned many of the things from the West, but he practiced it because it had these three dimensions to it. And that is the only way by which you will be able to ascertain your autonomy. How can you be free? Even in the practice of health, how can you be free? How can you be your own master? How can you be independent? How can you maintain your autonomy? Now the problem is that, just like the doctors are saying, those who wrote about, Gadamer has written, the German philosopher, who lived for 102 years. He died in 2002. Gadamer has a wonderful book on, I forget the title. Anyway, he says that, in that very, very critical and very fascinating book, Gadamer says that, the relationship between a medical practitioner and a sick person, a patient has become a slave-owner relationship. It has degenerated to that level. You go and surrender yourself before a doctor, and the doctor takes over. And then he dictates, you obey. Whatever it is, a surgical procedure, you have to do it. And then, it also tells us that if you have, modern medicine is telling you that if you have time and if you have money, you can cure any disease. And we know that it is not true. So, Gandhi is of the view, that unless you have complete autonomy, if you are not free, if you are a dependent person, if you are enslaved by either an individual or a system, then you cannot experience Swaraj in your life. And therefore, even in the field of health, you have to be your own master. You have to decide what is right for you. And if you want to decide what is right for you, it is a big responsibility. So I conclude by saying that I don't want to elaborate, although I can. I will conclude by saying that health is, Justice Cyriac Joseph, when he spoke, said that it is a right. Health is a right, human right. Good. Health is a human right, but health is also a responsibility. And this is something that we forget, and we are happy to forget. Because when if I say, or if somebody says that you are responsible for your health, you have to be careful about how you live. You have to be careful about your body. You have to be careful about everything you do. When you wake up, when you sleep, what you eat, what you wear, how is your relationship with the rest of human beings, the rest of creation. All these things are important. And I don't want to take up that kind of responsibility which will make me kind of engaged. Otherwise, I would like to do my kind of favorite things and pass time away, while time away. I want to enjoy. That's the problem. And therefore, unless you are able to accept the fact that health is a responsibility, it's your duty and responsibility, and not only your right, you will not be able to achieve health Swaraj. So you look at the individual life of the daily routine of Gandhi, how meticulously did he follow that? So unless we are able to impose that kind of restrictions on our life, then we cannot have a health Swaraj, and we will not be able to be healthy. This is the problem. So whatever be the health models that are available today, and whatever be the overweening influence that modern medicine has on contemporary civilization, on contemporary humanity, if people are able to understand one's own body properly, the functioning of one's own body, and if people are ready to accept the fact that health is not only my right, but also my duty and responsibility, and live responsibly, understanding that I am basically responsible for my health, what I do is what gives me health, then you will not be able to think of health Swaraj. So health Swaraj is a fascinating concept. Oh, you will be free, health. It is not getting health free, but it is being free. The aspect of being free, even in the case of health, you don't have to depend on anyone, but you will be responsible for your health. This is what is meant by health Swaraj, which is a great challenge, which is not something that you can enjoy without paying a price. You will have to pay a price. If you want to enjoy anything important, anything serious, you will have to pay a price for it. I often hear people complaining about how the political leadership is becoming tyrannical, dictatorial, totalitarian. We complain, but we are not able to pay the price for it. You have to be vigilant, you have to be active. You must say no to anyone when it is the point of time when you should say no. Unless you are able to do that, it is a responsibility. So, When you talk about Health Swaraj, you must remember that Health Swaraj is fascinating, but Health Swaraj, you have to pay a price for enjoying Health Swaraj, and that is being careful living and responsible living. Thank you.